Today is Monday, December 4th, 2018. I'm Nicole Morin Scribner, and we are currently at the Good Shepherd Sisters Convent on Pool Road in Biddeford. And I have the honor this morning of interviewing Sister Therese Bouthot. So, welcome, Sister. Did I pronounce your name?
Yes, you did very well.
Oh, good.
As if you were Canadian.
Well, I know that names are important, so I try to get it correct. So we're going to start at the very beginning. Can you tell me where you were born?
Yes, I was born in Biddeford on the corner of Hooper and Elm Street, right next to that great big black bridge, iron. Yes, this is where we lived. And this was in 1922. So that's 96 years ago.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
It's a long time.
And here you are talking to me today, and you look wonderful.
Mm-hmm. And so we lived on Elm Street about maybe 3 years. And then we moved to Hazel Street, right next to St. Mary's Church. And so we were right in the middle of an Irish parish and Irish children. And so we just learned English without being taught, actually. But I remember one of the first days that we moved, I went downstairs to the lady, to the occupant there, and she was Irish, and so I knocked on the door, and I said to her, "Look, I broomed the yard for you." Because in French, I mean, the balai is balayer, is the same. I remember saying it, and she laughed. My brooming the yard.
And how did that make you feel when she laughed?
I didn't mind. That was fine. She understood, and she seemed kindly, so that was okay. But I think it was a surprise to her.
Mm-hmm.
So we really mixed in very nicely with the Irish kids. And St. Mary's Street School was right around the corner, so everything was the parish and the convent and the school. So we got to play with them, and so in time, what I like to do in the summer, we would make not plays but concerts. I mean, we would just my brother played the guitar. Did you know about my brother?
No.
No. Well, anyway, he was featured in here.
And what is that book that you have here?
It's Salt.
Okay.
And his whole, this is...
So there's pictures here. Is it Donald or Lionel or
it's
both?
Lionel.
Lionel,
Yeah,
okay.
well, they both sang, actually. See, these are some of the pictures that... Here are the two of them.
Oh.
And here is my sister and myself. And
if it's okay, after we're done our interview, I would love to take some pictures of this so that we can have it for our records as well.
Yes, okay.
So you continued to get together, and looks like music continues to be something that you do when you get together.
Yes, well, we can a little bit less now, I think.
Uh-huh.
This is my niece.
Now, when were these pictures taken? Is it like within the past 10 years or so?
Yes, within the past 15 years, I'd
Okay.
say.
Yes, I'm going to take a picture of this when we get done so we can have it in our records as well.
Okay, yeah. And so this is what they did. Now, this is one of my brothers with a friend, and they were great at building airplane models. When we were that age, I mean, that's one of the big craze was the building airplane models. So they got very proficient at it and built a lot of airplanes.
That's something I didn't know. That's interesting. Now, are those kits do you know if those were like kits that they used to buy, or they would pretty much start
No, they'd buy these little boxes, and these pieces of the plane were all little pieces, all ready to assemble. But they had to assemble, so they needed like a whole newspaper. They have all these pieces, and then you had to take it very and put it under the bed very carefully, because so we'd put it under the bed to store it at night, and then you take it out in the morning and you work on it.
Now, when it was all built, where did they fly them?
I don't think they actually flew them, because they were not that
Sturdy.
that sturdy, you know. But anyway, they had them, and they exposed them, and everybody marveled at what they had done. And then when the younger boy, when Donald was older, he built a real one in his garage.
So it's an avocation that he continued his entire
he really
life.
did, and he made them also. He made the most beautiful boat, and the plane never got up. He never finished it. He died before, but the boat got on the water. Beautiful boat. He was very gifted.
Wow. Now, did you help to build the model airplanes too?
No, I didn't.
No? You just didn't have an interest in it, or?
No, I had no interest in that. But they spent a lot of time, which was good. I mean, it kept them home, and it kept, and their minds working, and
Now, did some of the other kids in the neighborhood do that too?
yes.
Yeah,
yes.
that was
a big
that
thing.
was the thing.
Yes, yeah.
Now, you were talking about, and of course you've shown me pictures from this. So, which book did this come from, where there's pictures of
It comes from a Canadian book.
Oh, really?
It was sort of a religious. It came out once a month.
Now, how did your brothers end up in that Canadian book?
Because we were going to St. Joseph's School, and those were
Okay.
the sisters. They were our sisters who were teaching there, and the teacher, one of the teachers, had a brother who was priest in Canada, and so I think he's the one that edited that little book that came out. So then she had their pictures, and she sent them to him, and that little book came out.
That must have made him feel pretty proud to be in that book.
Yes, yes. But they played from fourth or fifth grade constantly. I mean, they played for birthdays in the classrooms. They played for any big feast that we had. That they were always playing.
Now, did other members of the family, so it was primarily your two brothers?
Mm-hmm. It's the two brothers. And the first time they went, I don't know if it's the first time, but anyway, they had, the style was at that time was that we had these shows at the City Theater, but they were contests, like, what do they call them?
Like a talent show?
A talent show, but they had another name for it. It was a talent show, and there was a prize for. So anyway, my brothers went there, and they were all dressed up in their black velvets and their these little collars with they were so cute. So anyway, they went and they performed. They brought the house down, and what they did is the organizers brought them out again, said that they would give them the money for the first prize, and that was it. I mean, they wanted them out of the way and get the contest really going, because they felt that nobody's going to have a chance. So everybody's going to feel that these guys are going to get it anyway. So isn't that a rough?
Now, this is the first time I hear that they used to have talent shows at the City Theater.
Yes, that was a big thing.
Did that go on for quite a while, for many years?
It did. It went on for a few years, and then we had just fewer of them. But they really exploited all the talent that we had in the area, which was good.
So this was obviously children as well as adults?
No, just children.
Oh, it was just children,
It
a talent show for just
so that
children.
It would be fair.
Now, were these children from throughout Biddeford, or was this something just for, because you said they went to St. Joseph's School?
No, it was throughout Biddeford and Saco, this whole area.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, because one of the things that I've heard and read is that the parishes were, even though they were all Catholic, they were pretty separate. So you're the first example that I hear of someone with a French background being in the St. Mary's neighborhood.
Yes.
So your parents, did you go to church at St. Mary's?
Well, not when we were in school. I mean, we were not far from St. Joseph, so we go to St. Joseph. But later on, I went to St. Mary's. And I was in high school, and like at the beginning, we used to go to Mass on Sunday, and everybody had to sit, all the grades had to sit together, so I had to go at that time. But then after that, when I was in high school, I started working also. So Sunday morning, I'd go to the 11 o'clock Mass and not the 8 o'clock.
Because that was more convenient.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to back up just a little bit. So I know you were born in Biddeford, and I saw in the information you provided me that your father was born in Biddeford.
Saco.
Oh, in Saco.
Yes.
Now, do you know how his family came to this area? Are they originally from Quebec?
Well, they're from the area in Quebec, but oh yes. Yes.
And how about, was your mother born in the United States?
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
so they were
I
both.
think they were from Rhode Island. I think my grandparents were from Rhode Island on my
Okay.
mother's side.
Now, what language did you speak at home?
We spoke French at home, and at one point my father said he didn't want to hear a word of English. Now, he didn't speak English, and neither did my mother. I mean, they had words, and my father always worked. He had a pool room, and so in that work he was always with the Italians and with the Greeks. I don't know what he taught, but they really were great friends. He had great friends among these people.
Now, where was the pool room?
It was on Main Street.
In Biddeford?
Yes, in Biddeford, where right now is a renovated government offices. As you turn, as you come down Main Street.
Yep.
Well, if you keep on, if you go on to what street is that?
If you're on Main Street,
and you're going to Saco.
okay, yeah, I know what you
Okay,
mean.
and instead of keeping on Main Street, you kind of take that.
Is it
That brings
Alfred?
you to the shipyard, and I don't know if they talk about the shipyard anymore, but that's what
There was
we,
a shipyard in
the sh-
Biddeford?
yes,
Where was, oh, must have been on the water?
right,
Kind of towards Cleve Street?
Cleve Street, yes.
Okay.
As you're coming down this
Yeah.
way. Well, those buildings there, and you know that there was a pool room there and a bar room. And when that opened in the mill, that one closed because that bar room closed. But the pool room was right next to it.
Do you know how long he ran that business?
He was working full time too, so it was, yeah, quite a long time. When I entered in '42, he was still
Running that.
yes.
Did you ever go in?
Yes,
Yeah?
it was clean. Canadian clean.
It was Canadian clean. And so you mentioned something about your father was friends with, there were Greeks, people of Greek
Greek
origin and
And
Italian.
I know especially those two. I mean, with the Greek people, it was very.
No,
friendly.
what was it like? What was it like when do you remember going to visit that pool room? What was that like?
Well, as I said, it was very nice. I mean, it didn't look like a beer parlor, you know. And the pool tables were, we almost couldn't get near them because you couldn't touch those call it not rugs, but
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
The felt on the pool
Yes,
tables.
everything was kept very, very nicely.
And so when you went there, did you get to speak to the other people who were his customers there?
No, not really.
No.
No, I don't remember that we went that. No. Then my mother and father opened a restaurant. You know where the Saco-Lowell used to be on, well, right across the street. There was a grocery store, and then there was a restaurant there, and they ran that for a few years.
What kind of food did they have there?
I guess regular food, and my mother did quite a bit of the cooking. So it was meals like these guys from Saco-Lowell were used to. So they came in large numbers, and it exhausted my mother. So it didn't last too many years. They turned it over to someone else.
So speaking of food, what kind of meals do you have any memories of what kind of meals you had at home when you were growing up?
Well, you had this. What do they call it? You know, there's potatoes and hamburg and corn.
Oh, I think they call it like shepherd's pie.
A shepherd's pie. Yeah, that was one of the big things. So des bouillies.
Des bouillies.
Bouillie. A boiled dinner, I guess.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Bouillie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big favorite also.
Any favorite desserts?
I don't remember desserts. I don't remember what those were. Custard pie was a big thing.
Now, you mentioned that your father said something about they got to a point where he didn't want to hear you speak English. That must have been difficult when you moved to the St. Mary's neighborhood.
Well, I don't think this lasted more than a week. You know, it's just one of those things, and it only very, you know, much later that I realized that he didn't speak English. But I don't know how he spoke spoke to those other people that he worked. We worked with the public all the time.
And then I wonder if you're running a business, there's got to be forms you need to fill out and other paperwork you need to do.
I think it was very simple in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And then he knew the people, and most everybody spoke French. Everybody in authority or whoever he'd need.
So going back to your family, you were, is it 6 or 7 brothers and sisters that you had in all?
Yes, in all we were 7, but 2 died very young.
Mm-hmm.
So we were 5.
Now, where were you in the lineup?
Number 2.
You were number 2.
Mm-hmm. I came 3 years after my oldest brother.
Now, did you have any other relatives that lived in the area?
Yes, we had my paternal grandmother and father lived on State Street, which was close to Hazel Street.
And
so that was nice.
And did you get to spend quite a bit of time with them?
Yes, I really did.
And did you, where you have a French background, did you have any relatives in Quebec, in Canada, that you stayed in contact with?
No.
So not much connection
At all.
at all. Any special traditions that you remember with your family when you were growing up, like around the holidays or?
Well, around the holidays we would it was a big thing, and we would visit with my grandmother and my aunts and uncles and they were there. I mean, they were in Biddeford on both sides, and there was this custom. And that was a Canadian custom that for New Year's you would visit your grandparents and you would ask a blessing. So we would have that. My father and especially my grandfather.
Now, what did that look like? Did the family all like kneel in front of them, or exactly how did the blessing take place?
Well, it would take place. It would not be a group gathering, and we just went to the house, and it happened there.
Hmm.
But it's something that you kind of remember. There's a warmth to that.
Hmm. Now, you mentioned that your father, in addition to having that pool room on Cleve Street, that he worked someplace else as well?
Yes, he did. He did. I guess he had one of his friends attending to the business. But yes, and I don't remember. It was some sort of a factory that was owned by people from England. And I can't remember.
Where he worked?
Where he worked.
Okay. Now you mentioned
it was just over the river in Saco.
Okay.
On the right.
Okay, I know that there were a lot of factories
now it's a one way. Right after the bridge.
Oh,
if you're
yeah.
on Main Street and you get into Saco,
yeah.
It's a one way on the left.
Yeah, I can picture it. And I'm not sure, did they turn that into like housing or something now?
Yes, it was right at the end. It was right at the end, almost onto Main Street, that first building.
Now, did I see that he also worked at the Pepperell some? Did your father work at the Pepperell?
My mother did.
Your mother did?
She was in the blanket department.
Did she ever share what it was like to work there?
Not really. but I know that she, some of the other women were upset with her because she was raising she was doing too much, and she was producing a lot, so it was raising the amount the others had to do, because she was doing all that, so then they had to work harder.
Now, if I understand correctly, back then they were paid what was called piece rate.
Yes. So anyway, I guess the other women kind of prevailed on her to slow down because they couldn't keep up.
So that's something that she had shared, or she would come home and say, it must have been kind of stuck. It's like you make more money when you do more, but she was getting some
That's
pressure from the others to slow
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. And yet she had to work there within the system, so anyway, that was funny.
Now, I think you had mentioned that were all of you in school when she went back to work?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that kind of was the expectation those days
Two.
for women to stay at home when the kids were home?
I think so. Yes, we didn't have all these babysitters and these, you know.
Now, you went to school at St. Joseph's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you could have gone to, were there some other options of
St.
where you could have
Andre's.
gone?
St. Andre's.
You could have gone to St. Andre's.
Mhm.
And did St. Mary's have a school then?
Yes, I could have gone to St. Mary's, right.
And is it you or your family? Well, you were little, so and your parents decided that you should go to St. Joseph's?
I really don't think that there was, in their minds, that there was much choice. They were in St. Joseph Parish with St. Joseph Church, so naturally you would go to St. Joseph's School.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do you remember about going? What was school like? What was it like when you were going to school? What do you remember about those days?
I remember that we worked hard. We really worked hard. And we had English in the 4th grade, I think, which was bad. I mean, but we had English, so you know that. But at that time, I mean, you didn't know. You just. So we learned French. Was a heavy French for the first 3 years.
And was it all Good Shepherd sisters that were teachers there?
Mademoiselle Langelier on the 3rd grade. You could.
Mademoiselle
You
Langelier.
remember?
Oui.
Mademoiselle Langelier, but she was the only she was the only lay teacher that I ever had.
And it was in the 4th grade, you said, when you started?
We started English.
Started English. Now, when you said it was hard, was there a lot of homework, or
There was a lot of homework.
there was a lot of homework back then?
Yes, we really worked hard.
Were there any other special memories that you have about when you were going to grammar school? Any activities or?
I remember those large frames, maybe a little smaller than that one up there, of purgatory or hell, or and we used to line up for the bathroom, and we lined up there. So we spent a lot of time looking at getting educated on those.
Mm-hmm.
But the sisters were kind. I don't remember any big the sisters were really good to us.
Now, you continued in the St. Joseph's
Yes.
system through high school?
Through high school, yes.
Now, at what point, was it boys and girls through all
Mhm.
those grades?
No, no, for me it was just, we never had any boys.
Through from first grade on,
Mm-hmm.
the boys
high
went.
school, yeah.
So even in the first grade, it was just girls.
Yes.
Where did the boys go?
Well, they had another class, another
Oh,
classroom.
it was a separate classroom.
Like there were 2 or 3 first grades, second grade, third grade. So
I understand. And so then you went to, was it called St. Joseph's High School?
then I
back
went
then?
to the high school, which was the top floor of the building. It was a small. I mean, we graduated 6, I think, or so we had a lot of attention.
A lot of tender loving care. Couldn't sneak out of anything, huh?
That's right.
Do you remember anything about what the curriculum was like when you were in high school, especially knowing what
High school,
curriculums are like
we
now?
We had the option of what do you call it?
Probably like a college track versus commercial.
A commercial, and then the other one was anyway. But some of us had the both, so we kept on with the type and with the shorthand and the bookkeeping and that type of thing, plus all the other, the Latin and the French and the English.
So when you were in high school as a teenager, what did they have? What did you do for fun? Did you have dances? Were sports a big thing when you were in high school?
Absolutely no sports. We had no sports at that time. We had no dances for sure. I mean, we used to have to go sharpen our pencils to see the boys because the boys were coming from St. Louis, and at noontime, and the dinner hour was not the same, so that we wouldn't be meeting them. So we had to go sharpen our pencils to look who was coming. Isn't that crazy?
That's funny.
Yeah.
So when did you have a chance to meet other
didn't.
teenagers? Outside of school?
We did. Yeah, I guess some of them, but I had no time because I went to work when I was in the 8th grade. I went to work at, I can't remember their name. They had a dry goods store right next to Kresge's. And so anyway, my mother knew these people. They're nice Jewish people. And so I got to working there in the summer.
Was that on Main Street?
Yes, it was across from Penny's.
When Penny's was there at the time?
Yes. I can't remember their name. They were very good, and I really learned a lot there. I learned a lot, and then I went to Kresge's for just, I don't know, a little while, and then my site was really Penny's, to work at Penny's. And so I got to work at Penny's for all through high school.
So other than work, what did you do on weekends? Did you get together with your friends?
In the summertime, on school time, I would work at Penny's on Saturday, sometimes Friday night and Saturday, but that was every week. And in the summer, I would work full time.
Did you ever go to the beach?
We went to the beach, yes. We didn't have a car, so we depended on the trolley cars, and yeah, we did that.
Now the trolleys took you from Biddeford to where?
To Old Orchard Beach.
To Old Orchard.
Mm-hmm. Or to Saco, wherever.
So going to Old Orchard was a draw back then too? A lot of people went to Old
Oh,
Orchard?
yes. It's like the only place to go, really. And especially in the summertime. And you didn't have everything that we have now in Saco with all these amusements that they have. It was very simple. Then later on, I got a bicycle, and so my friend and Rita and I would go to Old Orchard Beach, and we went with our bikes. Then we were too tired to come back on the bike, so we had to call Rita's father. He had a beach wagon, so he came for us in our bicycles. We did that only once. Rita and I used to go to the Saco Theater also, and it was 12 cents for 2 features, and so we would get 2 cents to go down and buy some candy, and so I would buy, like 6 pieces for 1 penny, but Rita said, "You're cheap." She said she would buy 2 pieces of candy, 1 cent each, she said. But then throughout the movie, she would come and pick one on my caramels, and then I had 6 for a penny.
Funny that those things that you remember, a penny wouldn't get you even that far today. Mm-hmm. That penny meant a lot back then, a lot more than it does today.
Didn't it? Yes, a great deal.
So, when did you start thinking about making the decision that you made to become a sister?
My older brother and I used to go to Vespers on Sunday. There were Vespers at 3 o'clock at St. Joseph's. We would always go there. And when I was old enough, I started to look at the books that there were in the benches, and there was one book that has a psalm in it. I think it's Psalm 123 or 127, and I could read at that time, so I must have been 8 or 10 years old maybe. And what I read in there is, "And I shall live in the house of the Lord all the years of my life," or something like that. And that was so powerful. And on Sundays, I would go back there and read that. And I think it was just like an automatic thing that this is what I would be doing.
That really spoke to you and stuck with you.
Oh, it really did. But I never mentioned that to anybody. And I was so busy because I liked to really have good grades in school. So I was working very hard at that. Then I was working all of Saturday, Friday night and Saturday. And my mother started to work somewhat time around, so I had my 2 brothers to look after, and my schoolwork to do, and working outside. There was really no time for this kind of relaxed activity or what have you. And I had a good friend. Rita Grondin was a very good friend, and so we went skating in the wintertime at the Westbrook, and of course the ladies' night was on Wednesday. So we had work. I mean, we were going to school, so we had homework. So we had divided the task. I would teach her all about the French homework that we had on the way to the skating rink, and on the way back she would teach me all the English I had to know for the next day. So we were able to go skating.
You worked out a system. So did you walk?
Yes, we walked. And we didn't think it was far. And it was cold.
And dark?
Mm-hmm.
So Westbrook
Those
skating.
were that was a fun part. And going to the movies. The Cowboys on Saturday and Jeanette MacDonald on Sunday. Whatever nice movie there was on Sunday.
Where did you go to the movies?
Well, we went to the City Hall, which was for the Cowboys, and then to the Central on Sunday. If there was something good on Sunday, like Jeanette MacDonald or something.
Mm-hmm. So I go back to, you had been thinking since you were a little girl of a religious life. When did you start taking some steps to make that a reality for yourself?
Oh, I think the year before, really making it known, beginning to my parents.
And how old were you at the time when
I was 18.
You were 18.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the reaction from your family?
I think there was some sadness, or a disappointment, and on the other hand, they were happy that I would be safe.
Now, once you decided to become a sister, there's more than one order of sisters.
That's right.
Why did you choose the Good Shepherd sisters?
I think because of their works of mercy, everything that they did. In Canada, we had the prison, with the women's prison. We had all the girls. We had all the delinquent girls.
How did you find out about that, about the work that they did?
Oh my God. The sisters would give us information all the time as to what's going on, what they're doing.
So like when you were in high school, the sisters would talk about...
Oh, when we were in grade school.
When you were in grade school, they talked
Mm-hmm.
about the different work that they did.
Mm-hmm. And that was appealing.
That was appealing to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So was it shortly after you graduated from high school that you made the decision?
It was before.
Oh, before.
So when I finished high school, I ended the same year.
You did.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the first, what was that like when you did make the decision and you took those first steps to become a sister? Was that here?
It was that.
Was it here when you started? When you first became a sister?
Yes, it was in Biddeford, at the convent in Biddeford. The program was on the second and third floors.
Was that on the convent that had been on Adams Street?
The one that burnt there, yes.
So that's where
Mm-hmm.
you started. How many other young women joined at the time that you did?
We were 5, I think, at the time.
And so you stayed right there at the
We
convent
stayed right there for 2 years.
for 2 years.
Yes.
Were you able to see and visit with your family
Oh,
during
yes.
that time?
Yes, they came, and my brothers went to school there. So anyway, I sent my shoes home to be polished.
You sent your shoes home to be polished.
Well, my brothers were always, I'd take those home, and my father had so whenever they found out that my shoes were being sent, I was getting these nice shoes every week, they said, non, ma petite sœur, vous allez apprendre à faire vos shoes.
Now, those first couple of years that you were a sister, did you work during that time? Were you studying?
Yes, we
or
taught.
You
We
taught.
taught the first year as much as we could. I mean, I was teaching the second grade boys. Well, I had just finished high school. I had been in a play, and the kids had all seen this. So they were calling me Ma Soeur la Reine, because I was a queen in the. Anyway, there was so much dust in that classroom. I mean, I really wasn't making it. So anyway, one day we're coming out for a recess, and so the class comes out, and the principal is there and all her. And I had 6 boys, I think. She says, "Well, where is the class?" I said, "Well, they all went out the window." We were on the first floor, but there was la chaufferie was the furnace was right there, and so from the window, it was just about this much that they were on top of the chaufferie. So they had all gone out the. So anyway, they changed. They changed me. I went to the third grade girls on the second floor. So that was the end of my teaching the boys.
Huh. Did you find it a big change when you went to that other class?
Oh, I had 53 little girls, third grade girls. It was like heaven. I mean, they listened but the boys were saying, oh, and they knew me and they knew my brothers, and they said it was a complete disaster.
What were you teaching back then?
The second grade.
Right.
French and English.
French and English. Who determined the curriculum? Did you have to do your lesson plans, or were those provided to you?
No, they would teach us.
Okay. So you didn't have to come up with your own lesson plans.
No, they would really help us with that.
One of the things that came up as a question when you were talking is where the boys and the girls were in separate classes. How did they handle recess and the playground?
Well, there were 2 playgrounds.
There were 2 playgrounds.
Mm-hmm. The girls were on the right and the boys were on the left.
Was there like a fence in between?
No, there was a sidewalk.
Okay.
So there was the boys' side and the girls' side.
Was somebody keeping an eye on them to make sure that
yes, yeah.
Another question that I was going to ask is because I have encountered some other people who grew up in French communities, and they shared that in school they were punished if they were caught speaking French. You know, we're in the U.S., you need to talk in English. Even out on the playground, if they were caught speaking French, they were punished. But I never heard any of that in Biddeford.
No, we never had that. The only incentive we had was to speak good French. So we had des jetons.
Okay.
There were little pieces. And then we would exchange these. You know, if somebody would correct you and say, well, no, this is how we say it, well, then I would have to give one a jeton because I didn't speak well. But that I don't think that succeeded too well because, you know, among ourselves, we were shy to speak well because the others would laugh at us. So that didn't work.
By speak well, you mean speak like the
toi, puis moi, puis you know.
Versus moi puis toi.
Oui, justement. So we didn't feel comfortable, and so when we were playing, we did not speak well. We spoke the patois.
So, That you taught here. You started out, I think it was like a couple of years that you taught here, and then I think they sent you went to Van
I went to
Buren.
Van Buren, and I taught there 1 year or 2 years, I don't remember. And then I went to Mount Carmel. I went to Mount Carmel because there was one sister who really wanted to go to Africa, and she finally prevailed on the sisters to let her go. So then she needed some time to get ready to go to Africa, and she was at that time earmarked for St. Joseph College to do one more year at St. So anyway, they exchanged. I went to college, and she took my class at Mount Carmel in Methuen, and she taught that class. So they told me I could finish my baccalaureate, and so that was okay. So I went and said that they would look for another teacher for the how did that work? Anyway, she went to teach in my place. I went to college, and they wanted to send somebody to social work. So they had one person earmarked for social work. And so I went with that person to complete that year. And after that, they said, we didn't find anybody who wants to go to social work, so you'll go to social work. So I took another year at college and got my baccalaureate, and then we went to Boston College, and we were there for social work. Now they told me, when you're finished and ready for social work, if you don't want to do it, you can teach in high school. So I went with Elizabeth, and we got our degree in social work. So then I went to St. Anne's Orphanage, but they were really wanting the order really wanted somebody to head the adoption program, and we had nobody in the community, and so they needed a social worker. I guess the state was pushing for somebody in social work. So that's what happened. So as a result, I then was assigned to St. Anne's in Methuen, and it was an orphanage. So I worked there for 24 years, I think. And what we did in that time was develop that program into a very good program for disturbed children.
They probably didn't have that many programs that focused on that at the time.
They really didn't. But going there as a social worker and seeing who was there and making an effort to return the children to their families and to facilitate and place them and do, we really organized for trouble, because our biggest provider of children was the state. And when the children didn't fit in the foster homes, they would look for some group placement. And so, I saw that coming, that this is what was going on, so we really organized for that, and we developed a very strong program for disturbed children. And it's still going on now, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
That must feel very fulfilling.
Yes. Yes.
Was that a big transition going from when you first started as a teacher and then somebody said, "Oh, you're going to do social work"? How did you feel about making that transition?
That was very difficult, and I tried to see God in all of that because I didn't plan anything. I mean, I thought I was going in, I was going to be teaching, and that was it. That's all I had seen. I had heard about the orphanages in Canada and all their works of mercy, but we had nothing like that here. So that was a big thing. That was a very big thing.
So it sounds like you were developing some programs. You felt pretty supported in seeing a need and then figuring out.
It was very hard.
What were some of the challenges?
It was very, very challenging. I think it was challenging because the sisters and the children lived in the same building. We had one floor of sisters, the top floor, and then the other two floors were children. Then we had also elderly ladies. So we had like two programs in one. And then you had all the needs of those children. So it was hard.
And did you have the resources that you need?
The city of Lawrence was I can't say enough about the city of Lawrence for support. And then the Air Force, was it the Air Force? Not too far from Lawrence. I think it's the Air Force that kind of adopted us, so it was wonderful. We had a great party once a year, but then they provided throughout the year for different things that I remember we had a swimming pool, an above-ground swimming pool that they had given us, and loads of things, and a big party at Christmas, so they were really good to us.
Well, that must have helped that the community was supporting this good work that you needed to do.
Yes, and the Eagle Tribune and the United Fund. I worked a lot for the United Fund, speaking in all the mills and all the factories around.
So was Lawrence and Methuen and Van Buren, how different was it? Were those difficult transitions coming from Biddeford?
Van Buren was not, because it was a school and it was ordinary, and we had a great time with the kids, and no, that was not, that was good. But
Methuen and Lawrence, how were those communities compared to Biddeford?
In what way?
Did it feel like it was very different, or you felt
pretty
much
I felt
at home?
very comfortable. No, that was great. That was great. People were wonderful, very, very supportive. They liked the sisters. Those were French communities as well? Yes, Mount Carmel was French in Methuen. And then at the orphanage, we were in the French parish. Yes.
Were you still speaking pretty much French back then? Or was it English?
We're still both.
Yeah.
But with the children, it was English. It's funny that with the children, it was English. But among ourselves, I mean, the community and everything, we still had all our prayers in French and...
Okay, so we were talking about St. Anne's home and
how it had been transformed into a residential treatment center. And that has developed, and right now that's really working beautifully. Very, very nice. They're helping children, and they're helping them with the latest methods, and it's really wonderful. It's really wonderful.
So you must have felt really good about the contributions that you made in
Yes,
that
yes.
program.
And it's still going on, and it's just wonderful.
Now, what role did you have there at the time that you got done? When you left St. Anne's?
When I left, I had transferred everything to the lay staff that I had, all the doctors,
Mm-hmm.
and we still had 2 or 3 sisters, I think, when I left.
And when you left St. Anne's home, what was your title? What was your position at St. Anne's?
Well, I had, well, we didn't have any superiors, so I was the director. But then this was transferred gradually to the lay people, to the doctors who were working with us.
Mm-hmm. Now, then a decision was made for you to move on to a different position. Why did it leave?
I felt I had done all I could for that agency, and it was on its feet, very solid. So I felt I could leave. I could leave.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I wanted to do is, at that time with a master's program, you had 2 years, and they were offering a 3rd year of refreshment or so I thought I'd go for that. So I wrote to all the different colleges, and if they had a 3rd year program. And there was only Columbia that said it wasn't filled, or it was that I could go. So I made arrangements, and I went to Columbia and got all the papers. Through the summer, I got the papers of the doctoral program. And I figured, well, their refreshment program for social work must be so few that they're putting everything together and sending, that. So anyway, I got there, and I got all unpacked, and I worked all through that night cleaning my little cubicle that I had, and anyway, then 2 days later I appeared there and looked for the 3rd year students, and they said, "Oh, we don't have that anymore." I said, "Oh, yes, you do. It's in your brochure." "No, it isn't." Well, I went to get one, and there it was. And they said, "Well, we're sorry, but we don't have that anymore. So you can stay and take some courses," and which is what I thought I'd do. So I selected. When I saw what they were giving to the doctoral students, I said, "Well, that's good for me." So I took that, and the other students during the year said, "You're crazy. You're going to do all this, and then all you need to do is the thesis." So anyway, I wrote back to the convents here and all this, and they said if I wanted to keep on in the doctoral program, that I was already in it, that it was okay. So I did. How about getting into the back door? It was really something. So then I graduated in 1981, and in the meantime I had gotten a job as a professor at Salem State University in Salem, Mass. So I developed that program, and so we were able to help it to gain master status. It was not it was a social work program, but just on the baccalaureate level. So it was good. It was good.
Well, those were quite the transitions as well, from everyday, running the operations at
Right.
St. Anne's to then
Right.
going to school.
Right. In the meantime, I was on the council of the province also. So I kept pretty much on that council.
Explain to me what the council does and what your role was.
Well, I would have to go to the meetings of the council, and that's the provincial, and an assistant for the works of mercy, which is the role that I had, and it's another one.
Is it like a governance
Yes.
council for all of the Sisters
For
of Good
all-
Shepherd?
For all of this in Massachusetts.
In Massachusetts.
Yeah, or Maine and Massachusetts.
Okay. And where did they have those meetings?
In Bayview.
Oh, in Bayview.
Mhm.
What were some of the big decisions you had to make on that council? Because, of course, during those days there was a lot of transitions taking
There was a lot of
place.
transitions, right, for St. Anne's home, and the loss that we did for St. Anne's home was to decide that we were going to close it.
That orphanage?
Yes, we didn't have the sisters.
Ah.
So anyway, finally, myself and Sister Viola and I don't know, a couple of Sister Priscilla, I think, we decided that we were going to keep it open. So the community said, well, it's okay if you want to do it, but if one of you can't serve at any time, we don't replace. I mean, you can stay there and try to make a go of it. So we had Sister Viola, who was the finance person. So she worked with the state, and we came up with a good not price, but
A budget and a plan.
A budget and a plan, and we talked with the state with that. They decided they would give us what we thought we needed to take care of these disturbed children, and this is how that started.
So part of the work that you had to do with the council is a lot of the services that had been provided by the sisters in the past,
Mm-hmm.
where you had fewer sisters, you had
That's
to make
right.
decisions as to whether to close the programs or find a way to hand it
Right,
off.
yes. Yeah.
That
I
must.
also worked with St. Andre's because that was in the same my job description.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think I saw in what you provided to me that there was a couple of years in particular where you were focused on the St. Andre group
Mhm.
homes. What was going on then? What was that like?
Well, they were developing their programs also. So they were starting programs in different parts of the state, and their adoption program, and especially the unwed mothers. So that.
And so you had to make some decisions about
Mm-hmm.
how you would continue to provide those.
Right, and how
Those
to
services.
how to enhance those services, and so it was.
Now, for example, at St. Anne's, you had an administrative role, but were you also involved, directly with interacting with the people that live there, like the kids and?
Yes, well, I was around, but I was not a house mother,
Mm-hmm.
not, but yes, what I did was kept all that going.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure that we were, that people were paid, and placing the children out, and also thinking for the future. What are we going to do with this, and the age of the children? So we started homes for the teenagers. So we bought several residences close to St. Anne's for them where they could stay,
Mm-hmm.
and then help them on their feet after that for either placement at work or we kept them. It seems at the beginning it was 16 and then it came to be 18 and then just working on an individual basis, so some may have been a little bit older.
Uh-huh. Now, let's see. After you did get your doctoral degree, where did you go to work
I
after
went to
that?
Salem State.
You went to, oh, that's
Salem
right.
State University to teach.
Uh-huh. At the university
Mm-hmm.
level.
And during that time, we were able to move our program from a baccalaureate program to a master's program. So that was a big achievement, and we fought with BU, Boston University, because we were on their turf.
Uh-huh.
But that we were able to do it.
Wow. Another great accomplishment. So after you were a college professor there, what was your next career move?
Well, I resigned, and then they assigned me here as administrator. So we developed this program here.
Here in Biddeford.
Yes.
So you were in charge of all the sisters.
I was in charge of the sisters, right, and then reorganizing how the services were provided, making a mission statement. It was great. It was fun at one point. It was really nice. And the sisters were working well, and it was pleasant.
What is it about it that you enjoyed the most?
I think it's feeling that people were getting together and that we were getting some work done when we were doing things. And that the sisters were happy doing it. And so we created a nice mission statement that's at the doors as you come in there, if you want to take a picture of it.
That would be a good idea. Thank you for pointing it out.
Yeah.
Because how did you decide which services you wanted to continue to fully support? The work that you, because I'm guessing one of the challenges that you had is the number of sisters continued to dwindle.
Right, that was, yes. Yes. And with St. Anne's, I mean, we had no choice. I mean, there was only 3 of us there. I mean, we had to pass this on to people. But we waited until it was solid. It was really, and the state was fully cooperating, which it still does today. You know, and that's still going on nice and strong. And I met one of a few years ago, one of the old social workers that I had worked with at St. Anne's, and he said, you know, sister, he said, we have not, in all these years, we haven't deviated one iota from your vision that you had for this place.
What a tribute.
That was nice.
Give you a warm feeling.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Now, what about the services in Biddeford? So at the time that you came in as provincial, what services were still being provided in Biddeford? So you had this
with St. Andrews.
You had St. Andrews.
I think that's all we had.
Yeah.
All we had in Biddeford is St. Andrews.
Now, is that St. Andrews the nursing home or St. Andrews the group home? The group homes.
All right, we had the nursing home. We had the nursing home, and there was a decision to be made there, what we were going to do with that. And we finally passed it on to I don't remember.
Covenant Health. Covenant Health?
Covenant Health, right. It took us really a lot of deliberation, and but then we did. and it's still going, so that's good.
Those
And
must have been difficult decisions
that was very
to
hard.
make.
That was very, very hard. But we were lucky that there was such an organization as Covenant. I think we had the choice. There might have been two others, but this one seemed to respond more to our needs.
And let's see, you were the provincial until 19, well, let's see.
No, I was not provincial.
That was a counselor, right?
It's just a counselor, yes.
Okay. So after Suffolk University, then you came back here. And
Salem State University.
Okay, I'm sorry.
At
Yep.
Suffolk, I was only 1 year. It was just I was still in Boston at that time.
Mm-hmm. And then after you were done teaching at the university level, then you came back to Biddeford, you said, right?
Yes, yes.
And you've been here ever since?
I've been here ever since, but I've been retired for, I don't remember what, I think you must have there when I retired about 9 years ago. And I retired because I was sick. I was just exhausted.
Just can't imagine why. You've been a little busy. And then we never even talked about, you have been involved in all kinds of boards and community organizations.
When I was at St. Anne's, there was a lot with United Fund. I did their speaking engagements in all the factories, and that was a lot of work.
And I see that you have been recognized with some pretty significant awards too. Mm-hmm. I see that you've been nominated to the Who's Who of American Women and the International Who's Who in Community Service. What was it like to get that recognition?
It was wonderful. That was good.
When I think about when we first started speaking, and you were saying, what was your vision that you saw yourself doing when you first decided to join the sisters? What did you think your life would be like?
Teaching. Just plain teaching, very quiet, very quiet and teach. But it turned out to be quite different.
It turned out to be quite different.
Very different.
Is there anything?
God seemed to be opening doors. I didn't request to go to college. And then when I got to college, they had changed. They wanted to send somebody for social work, but then nobody wanted to go. So I just went, kept on to get the degree. And then once I started with that at the orphanage, I never even thought back of going to teaching. There was so many needs for these children. And then as I said earlier, the more you help them and you got them out, and the others coming in were worse, so we were organizing for trouble. I had to do something to help these children. And we were, for a long time, several years, with the guidance center in Lawrence. There was a very strong guidance center in Lawrence. And the people running it were very sympathetic to us, so they would help us. But then came at one point that, the director said, we can't do any more for the children. We have to take care of the Lawrence children, because your children, they don't have a family, and we really can't connect them with the family, and we can't help them as much as we could. And then the only thing for me to do was to start a treatment center, which is what we did.
And it continues to this day.
Get our own, and styled according to our needs. And we were lucky to get the best of psychiatrists. We really got good doctors.
That makes a difference. Makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference.
In the order of
Jewish doctors and Protestant doctors from Boston. They had in Boston a Thome clinic, and we really wiped them out. I mean, their people there got all excited about our program, so they did come. So they were trained people, and they were excellent people. The one who replaced me was a Protestant minister, and the therapists were Jewish. So we had many Catholic people working, so it was good.
Has your experience in Biddeford, have you seen that kind of collaboration amongst different peoples, different
I
from
think
backgrounds?
Sister Viola would have seen this more than I have, because she worked at that level in Biddeford. But I don't know that it possibly.
You didn't have as much firsthand
No.
knowledge.
No.
So the Order of Good Sisters has been supportive of you on your journey. With the different things you've wanted to do, the Order of Sisters has been supportive of you.
I think so. I think they've been very helpful. They've been very supportive. I couldn't ask for any better.
There were some changes in your experience as a sister through your life. I neglected to ask you, when you entered the convent, what name did you take?
St. Lionel.
Oh, really?
So I was Mother St. Lionel, and the kids said Mother Lionel Trains. I mean, remember the Lionel Trains?
Oh, yes.
Well,
did you get to pick that name? Are you the one who chose that name?
yes, we chose our names.
And did you choose that because of your brother?
Yes.
So he must have considered that a compliment?
Yes.
So how did you feel when the decision was made to revert to your birth name? How did that feel to go from being Sister Lionel to now being Sister Therese Bouthot?
It felt good.
It did.
I think most of us were happy to go back to our names, and it was simpler. It began to be complicated to explain how Sister Mary of St. Lionel, and then explain to people. No, I was happy to go back.
And how did you feel about the other changes, things even in your manner of dress?
Well, I felt good because, we would take the children out shopping, and we were identifying these children. We would go to the stores, we would dress them up, it was with the sisters, so they're from the orphanage. They're the orphans. So we were happy with that. It really facilitated a lot for us.
So you must have seen some other changes with the life of being a sister through the years. Some changes in what it was like, because it's my understanding were you ever like sequestered, or you weren't allowed to go out that much? Was that part of? Are you freer now to get out?
Oh yes. But I always felt free though, because at the orphanage, like one of the first things that when I got there, the superior said, "You got to learn how to drive." I didn't know how to drive. So,
But then it must have been sad when you've seen things like Bayview close.
It is, oh, very, very. But now we're only a few. I mean, we're 35 or sure.
Because at one point, Bayview was really the center.
Oh, yes. We had retreats there, and we had guests around all through the year. I mean, we had guests.
It was a nice
There
spot.
was so much activity. I mean,
What did it feel like when you were able to go and spend some time at Bayview?
it was nice to go on retreat there, to go on vacation, to, you know, it was a second home. I mean, but all that was big decisions that had to be made.
Were you part of the group that was facing that decision?
Not at that time. I think I was here.
Mm-hmm.
That was hard.
Hmm.
And it was hard to incorporate the sisters who left Bayview and came here in large enough number. It was hard.
So, who would you say influenced you the most in your, you know, in your life? When you think of, is there anyone in particular that comes to mind that was a big influence on you?
I think Sister Rita Grondin, we entered together, and then she was provincial. And I think she had, and she's the one that built this place. So.
Also, the Rita that you were talking about that was a good friend when you were younger, she was a sister too?
Yes, she came in. We came in together.
Oh, okay. I didn't pick up on that.
She was a Grondin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a name that is known in the area.
And how do you think you influenced others?
I think I did a good job with them. I think I worked well with them, so I think there certainly was some influence there.
Mm-hmm. So tell me what it's like to be at this phase of your life.
It's unbelievable. I mean, I can't believe I'm 96. It's and I'm really trying to, like, I had a hard time to put that together. You know, I hadn't revisited so many of these things there, and I feel I need to do some more.
Well, it's a lot to put together because you weren't sitting around twiddling your thumbs
I know.
during these 96 years. It's a lot to reflect back on, a lot of great accomplishments.
And we had other great people. Sister Rose Lemieux was one. She was so kind and so powerful in a way, and she was a superior at the orphanage, and I was the director of the social service there. So she had a great influence on me.
Is there, when we think about Biddeford as a community, what would you like others to know about Biddeford as a community? What comes to mind for you when you think about this community?
You know, when I think of Lawrence as a community for the orphanage, it was wonderful. People were so giving and of course children would inspire you know, a lot of people. But in Biddeford, I really have not really been a part of as I was in Lawrence. So I don't know what the community as a
You had more of an indirect connection
yes,
when you
yes.
were actively
Mhm.
in your profession. Yeah. What is something you'd want to make sure that people take away from hearing your story?
How good the sisters were and all the good work that they've done. They've really done a lot of good work, good solid work.
Mm. And is there anything else you'd like to share that you had been thinking you wanted to share, but maybe I didn't ask the right question?
No, I think we've talked a lot. We've talked a great deal.
Well, I thank you again for taking the time to do this, but more importantly than anything else is just thank you for all the work that you have done for so many people. So thank you for taking the time to share your story with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.